good evening, and welcome to the White Wave Views broadcast, the WWVB, coming to you night from Auckland, New Zealand, by Addie Morrison. That's me. Also known as the Pakeha Queen, but I'm not sure if New Zealand's ready for a monarchy yet. What do you reckon? I think we are. I think the Pakeha people need some leadership. They need a council, and we may as well start at the top of the greasy pole and just work our way down rather than trying to scratch our way back from somewhere we came from that we all miss so dearly. What is going on with New Zealand? Well, I'm not going to be repeating all the horrible news that we keep hearing about the tribalism and Maorification, the erasure of the Western culture, the worldwide war on whites, the decolonisation of the anti-colonial, I don't know. I think we need to make a haka ourselves and face the challenge. The accusations and the slander and the defamation that we've been putting up with for so long. Our people are depressed, and I'm trying to keep it all light and airy here, but really deep down, we are being impacted by what is going on. A lot of people think that the Pakeha here, we're fine, we can look after ourselves, and we don't have a heart, and we don't have feelings. We're just those people that have generated wealth from stolen land, aren't we? And we're all born racist, and, nobody wants to really know us or employ us, and we're the villains, and everybody else is a victim. And this is the Indigenous story that's going around the world. They're all loving it. They're all on the bandwagon, ganging up on the poor pink man, and women and children. Our kids are having multicultural days at school, and they're left in their uniform. I mean, there's something wrong with this. This is why we need a queen. Now, if you really did have a queen, okay, which you do, what would you expect a queen to do for you? What sort of service? And whatever that is, I'm here for my people, the Pakeha people. Tonight, I am testing my new gear, the OBS system. I hope you like my sign going on here. And I've got the Queen wave going on. I've been doing some songs, collaborating with Suno. Hope you like the intro. That's the full version of the short version of the intro to the White Wave Views broadcast, the WWVB, the beginning of Pakeha TV. That's the vision. We need TV so we can get the memo out to all our people across the country that we're coming with our claims of stolen land that the Crown took from us when they got here. They threw the settlers off and they sold the land again, and those nasty people are still driving us into the ground, and they're using the Maori people against us now. And the Maori people have broken their beautiful social contract with us that we once had. We were happy people once. And there's all these important agendas going on. And we're facing threats here. We've had our Christianity kicked to the curb, but the anointing is just getting stronger and stronger. God is raising his people up, and I'm one of those people. And I'm here to serve the Pakeha. And I'm not going to be afraid of organising Pakeha meetings. And we've got our first little conference happening in Auckland. And I'm going to put our email, pakehamovement@gmail.com, in the comments below, and some other links as well. Join up with us. We need to unite, us Pakeha. Every other race here has got their council and leadership, and they're having their little race cults going on, and they believe that well-being is for people of their own culture to come together and do sports and have socials and, teach other people and make them aware. So, yeah, we're the same. We want to teach other people about us and who we are and our history, because our voice matters too. And frankly, we're being erased and eroded out. We're being cancelled and silenced. We're the ones that are oppressed, and so we're punching back on that. Now, I've bought a few books recently, and I just wanted to just skim through them and have a little read of the synopsis on the back. Now, these are books that the library doesn't want. They don't want these books in there, and they don't want them displayed. They're just a bunch of snowflake woke people that, everything is substandard now. there's no like class in anything anymore. You know what I mean? I want Pakeha to start getting classy again, start wearing nice clothes, and start feeling confident about yourself. We've got an amazing history in this country. Needs to be a movie made about it. In fact, we're going to be plugging for to have a documentary. Okay. Excuse me, I just need to have a sip of a drink. Now, this one here, books, cross publishing, Blood and Tears. Right, this is the first book. A memorial to those killed by tribal and related violence. The Great Untold Story of New Zealand by Adam Plover. I'm just going to read the back. In the course of creating the New Zealand that we have today, with its law and order, property rights, personal safety, and individual freedom, numerous people, both European and friendly Maori, were killed by tribal violence. They gave their lives in the course of creating order out of anarchy and are just as deserving of the nation's respect and sympathy as the soldiers who die on the battlefield. That is so true. It's about time people started respecting the Pakeha and stopped lying about us. We didn't erase the Maori language, we created it. Created it, created documents, translated it, translated the entire Bible. That's mammoth works that those missionaries did, and I will not have them being blasphemed. Okay, there used to be a law against blasphemy in this country, and I reckon they need to return all that back. The Rebel Act, the Tūhanga Tikanga Suppression Act, and all of that needs to come back. That was a constitutional principles. In this book, some of these brave but unfortunate people are introduced to the modern reader together with brief details of their lives and of their untimely and brutal deaths, thus bringing to life an aspect of our early history that has been overlooked for far too long. New Zealand's history is being rewritten with a new narrative in favour of the ever-growing grievance industry. In the process, real historical events are being swept under the carpet and out of sight if they get in the way of this new agenda. This book, based on facts alone and impeccably researched, tells of some of these long buried events as they really happened. So that's Blood and Tears by Adam Plover. It is so true, this revision going on. And you know, it's a funny thing because now the Maoris want data sovereignty. So they go and make up all this bullshit, revise all our history, okay, cherry pick for 50 years all the little sour pieces, forget about all the good bits, which was 98% of what the settlers did. The Crown did some nasty stuff, but they did it to us too. They did it to us as well. So, you know, we got the same claims. Here's another one, it's a big one. Twisting the treaty. Yes, now they want the data sovereignty. Now that they've twisted it all, they want that cemented. It's like these, I just have no words for these monsters, these evil monsters, I call them. And it's not racism at all. These people's minds, it's got nothing to do with colour. This is this Marxist, evil, communistic dictatorship, the tyranny, the intimidation, the bullying, the accusation. It's all, this is how Satan runs. This is how he runs the world. He gets into the minds of people. The Maori people are shutting up the kingdom of God to their children, okay, because they're bringing in this new religion and then setting it into everywhere, and it's disrupting the spiritual flow of what God wants for this country. Twisting the Treaty is by 6 authors, New Zealand historian authors: John Robinson, Bruce Moon, David Round, Mike Butler, Hugh Barr, Peter Cresswell. Twisting the Treaty, a tribal grab for wealth and power. See, this is We've got a valid point to make here, and we want our voices heard as Pakeha. This has been impacting us for 50 years now, and we don't have a channel of redress. Okay, and it's about time our voices were heard, and they're going to be heard on the White Wave Views broadcast, because the White Wave is coming. We're coming for your fraud, your fake, your fiction. Okay, we're sick and tired of it. And I'm an unapologetic type of queen here. Okay, if you're afraid to say something, okay, then stand behind me, because I'll say it. I don't have any fear. Okay, what is going on here is God is very angry with it. How the Pakeha are being persecuted for something they never did. It was the Crown that kept sending the colonisation settlers in. It was their plan. After they busted up the partnership we had with the Maori, they brought their bad plan in. Okay, so stop blaming us for that. We don't like them either. We don't like them either. They don't listen to us. The tribal grab for wealth and power. This is probably the most important book published in recent times, as it shows how in 27 years the Treaty of Waitangi has been reinterpreted, the partnership myth created, tribal corporations set up, public assets transferred to those corporations, which are now on the brink of securing a special place in the new treaty-based written constitution. So they're trying to rewrite the constitution now without even having any public consultation. It's all done by stealth, secret proceedings, behind closed doors. And you know the kind of people that are doing that, eh? You know, the secret lodgy people. Yeah, well, the Maoris have jumped into bed with those secret lodgy people. And those are the people that have never liked us since day one. They came straight for us, confiscated our land that the Maori had invested in. Okay, it was our land they got. The treaty was Britain's reluctant response to pleas by Maori chiefs to rescue the tribes from a culture of cannibalism, slavery, and intertribal warfare that had wiped out about a third of their race by 1840. The treaty was a simple and straightforward agreement by which the chiefs agreed to pass the sovereignty of New Zealand to Queen Victoria in return for protection and rights as British subjects, as well as being guaranteed possession of whatever lands they were currently holding by long use, conquest or otherwise. By the treaty, every Maori, including the slaves, gained a prize unheard of for native people at the time: full and equal citizenship of the world's largest and most benign empire. In recent years, a cadre of self-interested politicians, bureaucrats, judges, lawyers, academics, journalists, and tribal leaders have been feeding the public a fake history, wicked colonists, and noble chiefs, including a false version of the treaty, so as to feed the ever-growing grievance industry and line the pockets of corporate iwi, which has amassed 36.9 billion in assets. I think it's way more since this. I mean, they're spouting 120 billion in assets or something like that. And, you know, there's maraes going up everywhere. There's 60 in Auckland now, and there's still a lot of homeless people. I don't know what they're doing with all this money, but it smells like a coup d'etat to me, and we don't like it. While paying less tax than others, or more often no tax at all, that's right. Claims to culture, radio waves, petroleum, and the like, let alone partnership with the Crown, and even sovereignty itself, are modern creations not mentioned in the treaty. This book, written by 6 concerned and well-qualified New Zealanders, exposes the extent of the treaty fraud and warns of the National Maori Party Coalition's plan to hijack our constitution so as to turn all non-Maoris into second-class citizens in the land that our forebears built by their sweat and toil. That's exactly right. So that's twisting the treaty. Okay, the next one is a smaller book, New Zealand, The Benefits of colonisation, and this is another one by Adam Plover, who is also the author of Blood and Tears. So, New Zealand, The Benefits of Colonisation by Adam Plover. Let's just read the back. In order to address the issue of whether the colonisation of New Zealand by the British was of benefit to the native people, it is necessary to understand how they were living at the time of the discovery of the islands of New Zealand by the outside world, starting with Captain Cook's endeavour in 1769, the year that changed New Zealand forever. Using the written accounts of eyewitnesses of the time rather than unreliable oral history or the claims of revisionist historians, this book describes the way of life of the Maoris before colonisation and the changes that came about with the introduction of British sovereignty, British law, and British people as a result of the Treaty of Waitangi in 1840. So that's the benefits of colonisation. The next one is John Robinson, who was one of the authors of Twisting the Treaty, and this one is Who Really Broke the Treaty by John Robinson, another Trust Publishing. Any full and free discussion of New Zealand's future has been blocked as a juggernaut of Maori exceptionalism is moving steadily towards complete separation by race. With a new constitution being proposed to bring control by an indigenous minority with 2 separate houses of parliament, the complete destruction of equality and democracy, the people of New Zealand will have lost any ability to control their own way of life. This book dares to face the fundamentals and ask the tricky questions, to refuse to bow down to the imposed dogma and ideology. What is racism? Is this apartheid? Who really did break the treaty? The answers are clear. The grave situation can only be faced with an understanding of the full story of New Zealand's unique history and the events that have brought this division, commencing in 1975 with the formation of the Permanent Waitangi Tribunal and becoming more extreme over the years since. This is a must-read book, a suitable text to stimulate a much-needed community discussion. Gosh, you can't even get into the community hall to have a discussion these days. It's all taken over by woke bloke and tribal choke. You can't get anywhere near it. The Corruption of New Zealand Democracy, a Treaty Overview, another one by John Robinson. Let's read the back. Maori society was in disarray in the early 19th century. While slavery in the deep south of USA was terrible, in New Zealand it was brutal, with unexpected death and cannibalism a constant threat. There was mass killing. In the years following the signing of the Treaty of Waitangi, British forces imposed peace, bringing an end to intertribal warfare, torture, slavery, infanticide, and cannibalism. The Maori population steadily recovered from the ravages of the terrible past. This was a great achievement to be celebrated, and I agree with that. I believe that the Maori people, they became prosperous so quickly. Yes, some of the intertribal warfare was going on, and they missed out, while others prospered. I mean, before the treaty, the Maoris at the north, the Confederates, they were borrowing British ships and trading their goods all around the place. So it's not like we tried to stop them doing anything. We actually made them prosperous. Those who chose to fight lost out and ended up, not being prosperous, having their land confiscated, always having a grievance and a gripe. And they were basically the Kingitanga people who stole the name from us, because we were the King's people in the Hipakaputanga. The Pakeha written in there. We were independent when we came on those ships before the treaty. So that's another argument about the Crown taking our independence and our flag and our voice. And quite frankly, we're still in that void and in that space that only Pakeha would understand. And I can see the panic and the floundering that's going on throughout the country, through the councils, and all of the problem that we're having with people being afraid to speak up. And don't be afraid to speak up. don't, just use the same exertion as Maori do. You have to get angry. Nothing wrong with being angry. You just don't hurt people or, destroy their property. So this was a great achievement for the Maori people. The way ahead could then be based on common identity and equality. The outcome for Maori was not catastrophe, but demographic recovery. It is shown here that the decrease of population after 1840 was entirely a consequence of the initial abnormal population distribution, with a lack of young and a shortage of women, as well as continuing female infanticide. You see, the chiefs would or the tribesmen would make the woman kill the child by either pressing in the fontanelle, the crown at the top of the head, or in the temples. And because they mainly wanted boys for fighting, and they had scarce resources in some places at certain times. So the baby girls were just killed, and some of them were eaten. Or one account I read in a missionary journal is some of the wahine, they would whip the baby away and wrap it in a cloth and hide it or put it out to sea so it wouldn't get cooked and eaten. So this is the reality. And I think Maoris need to fess up and admit that the changes from the old culture they used to have were beneficial and great, and brave people built that bridge for them to walk across, and that should never be forgotten and always should be honoured and celebrated on like a New Zealand Day. It should be made clear that that's how this nation was founded, on Christianity, and I feel very protective of Christianity. I don't like to see that it's been kicked to the curb and replaced. It was removed from school for the reason that there was people coming in with other religions, and we shouldn't just have that. We should just have none at all, which is there shouldn't be religion and politics in schools. And that was the deal. But since we've seen our Christianity erased, we've seen all other, manner of devil-inspired ideas and agendas creeping in, and we don't like that, and we've got a point to make, and we need our voice heard on that. Okay, we don't just need little fires being started here, there, and everywhere. We need a proper council of Pakeha people that have a seat around the tables where we can frame and shape the future. Okay, because that is our authority and that is our right. Okay, and we need to take our place and then reclaim that. However, the rewriting of history in support of separatist claims is demanded of scholars. The repetition of causes for grievance then increases racial tensions while turning attention away from the worsening economic and social conditions of so many ordinary Māori. This book explores that background and outlines some of the consequences of the insistence on grievance, with the people becoming ever more divided. Racial privileges based on the accidents of history are now part of New Zealand law and are dividing a nation that was built on a worthy aspiration of one law for all. The continuing division of the land and writing of new law in backroom deals from which the public are excluded, as described here, is corrupting our once proud democracy. So true. The next one, dividing a nation. The return to tikanga. Ooh, ooh. Voodoo and the witchcraft. All of that which the treaty chiefs condemned and abandoned, remember? And in the Kohimarama Conference 1860 records the covenant, which is where really all the principles of the treaty are. At 1860, 200 native chiefs convening for a whole month. And they wanted to accept the treaty on certain conditions, and that's where they are. The tikanga, the new tikanga they declared all in one accord was Christianity, because they They breathed it, they lived it, they experienced it. That's what they love the Pakeha for, the Christianity, bringing them life. In fact, that's what the haka is about. It's about going from death to life, being baptized. It's a sacred testimony of the chief being born again and explaining his experience. That's why they don't give us the English translation. I think it's very rude for Maori these days not to give translations of all their te reo speeches and everything. They're doing it purposely, and it's insulting and offensive. They don't really care about harming us, and we're being affected. And Pakeha people are committing suicide on a very high rate. And I reckon that a lot of it has got to do with people being depressed and impacted by all of this slander against Pakeha and the white man and the worldwide culture war and what's. The government isn't doing anything about it. They're actually fueling it's state-funded discrimination going on. And it's wrong, and we're saying something about it. So Dividing a Nation, The Return to Tikanga, another John Robinson book. Okay, reading the back. Pre-1840, the rules of tikanga could be brutal in respect of intertribal wars and their consequences, especially for the ordinary natives who often lived in fear. Happily, everyday life for Maoris has been transformed. The practice of tikanga has changed, taking on many aspects of Western culture. There are many and varied descriptions of just what tikanga is now. This uncertain tikanga is being reintroduced into our way of life and written into law, setting rules to determine the behaviour of not just of part Māoris, but of all New Zealanders, giving these increasing requirements. It is important that the rules of tikanga are clear. What is this tikanga that we must increasingly follow? This book is a scan across the history of the old ways, a description of the changes brought about largely by Māori themselves in their great cultural transformation, and reports of recent disruptive actions where special race-based rights are claimed and supported by calls for the primacy of tikanga. To avoid trouble in the future, it is important that this vital issue be known, discussed and debated, so that New Zealanders can meet the challenges facing us and seek a better way to move forward as one people. This book is an informative step in that direction. Okay. So that's Dividing a Nation, The Return to Tikanga by John Robinson, another Tross Publishing book. trosspublishing.com. Okay, so those are 6 books that I've bought recently from trosspublishing.com. Now, this other one I've got is not Tross Publishing. Ewan McQueen has his own website. Just look it up, One Sun in the Sky, and you'll be able to purchase this online, okay? So, Ewan McQueen, The Untold Story of Sovereignty in the Treaty of Waitangi. So, Steve McQueen particularly focuses on the subject of sovereignty in here. What does it mean to the Māori? What did it mean to the British? Is our sovereignty on the line? Can we have 2 sovereigns in New Zealand? Should we have 2 states in New Zealand? What was the sovereignty that the treaty was talking about? And why was it that in Te Tiriti o Waitangi version that the word kawanatanga was used? And that's a question I've always had, because I see the Maori point there that actually in Te Tiriti o Waitangi it says governance, not sovereignty. So why didn't Henry Williams make a word for sovereignty, a reo word for sovereignty, instead of using governor, the kawana? I mean, it is a made-up word, yes, kawana, governor, sounds the same, you know, the pidgin English, using the English alphabet to create the te reo language. That was the format and the formula that was used. So they're right. We gave up governance. We didn't give up our sovereignty. So I see their point there. But this is the trick of the Crown. They came in and they went straight to the Maori to get them to sign something. Then they came straight to us to dismantle our setup. It's like the Maori were just used. They rushed it all together. They lied about us, saying that we were stealing their land. That they just totally came in and just broke up private company partnership. It's just not something that the Navy really doesn't. It's not supposed to be going around busting up companies, is it? It just, the whole history before the treaty is we have to have a settler tribunal for the Pakeha side of the treaty. I'm sick of the Crown blocking us and preventing us from making claims and having our voice heard and having a Crown Relations Minister. We need our own leadership, and we need a Crown Relations Minister to make sure that these Pakeha-led initiatives that we are organising in this country to make everybody safe are actually put right on the table. We don't want to have to wait every 3 years hoping that some MP is going to speak on our behalf about those historical things that nobody really wants to know about except us. So one sun in the sky, let's look at the back of this. The Waitangi Tribunal has declared that in the Treaty of Waitangi, Maori agreed to a dual sovereignty partnership in New Zealand. The chiefs understood that the governor would have authority over Europeans while Maori retained full sovereignty over themselves. I mean, how pathetic is that? Oh, yes, we'll go in and we'll get the Maori to sign us in so we can govern the Pakeha. Well, we were just building colonies, having a partnership with Maori chiefs. So we weren't the ruly ones. Who were the unruly? Maybe the whalers and the traders, or I think the unruly were the Maoris having intertribal musket wars. And the Crown was supposed to just police that. Yeah? While the colonies were being built and having respect, like the treaty did say that the land and the dwellings and the property would be protected, or didn't it apply to Pakeha? This is the question. Did the treaty actually apply to the Pakeha at the time? If it did apply, then why weren't we allowed in the Waitangi Tribunal to make the same claims of theft? If it doesn't apply to us, then why are we being forced to, why is there four walls closing in on us? Why are we being browbeaten, bashed over the head with the treaty? Maybe it doesn't apply to us. Maybe we're still under He Whakaputanga United Tribes flag. When Maori gave their governance up, we didn't give anything up. So we should still be able to govern ourselves. And I think we should. But is this true? What does the treaty actually say? And what do the records show of Maori understanding at the time the treaty was debated? One Sun in the Sky presents an evidence-based perspective on the question of sovereignty and the Treaty of Waitangi. Whilst a supporter of the treaty settlements process, Ewan McQueen, I love his name, McQueen, Queen. Ewan McQueen raises serious questions about the new paradigm of treaty interpretation. In this book, he reviews the historical evidence for how the treaty was understood by Maori and Pakeha, both at the time it was signed in 1840 and for the century which followed. The story he uncovers is rarely heard today, but it is a story which needs telling. Thoroughly researched and fully referenced, this book is a must-read for all New Zealanders, not just because truth-telling about our history is crucial to the future of race relations in our nation, but because our journey together has been a remarkable story. I totally agree. It's a beautiful history that we've got, to be honest. It really is, and I hope it all gets ironed out one day, and us Pakeha got to stand up, and we've got to do our best to iron this out, because until we get a settler tribunal, okay, because that's what is the undercurrent pain with the Pakeha, whether you like it or not. We don't have any communal land. There's nowhere where we're coming together anymore. We've lost our cultural oneness and togetherness. We've lost our ability to come together and have meetings and sort community stuff out. Everything's top down instead of grassroots up. We need to be more of a community again and take charge and control in our local neighbourhoods. Ewan McQueen has a passion for New Zealand and its history. Over the last 3 decades, he has offered thoughtful and insightful commentary on key social and political issues for our nation. His work has been published in a number of major newspapers and on his blog, Renew New Zealand. So that's Ewan McQueen's blog, Renew New Zealand, Renew NZ. Ewan holds Ewan holds an MA Honours in Economics from the University of Auckland and has worked in the health sector for many years. He lives in Mount Eden, Auckland. Wow, I didn't know that actually. That's just next to me. He's my neighbour, Ewan McQueen. So that's the One Sun in the Sky book. It's got amazing recommendations and reviews on it, and it really is worth reading. So taking in knowledge is one of the greatest things we can do to save our nation, and we do need to save our nation because we got it right once, I believe, and we had about 4 golden decades of health, wealth, and happiness. And anybody over 50 will not disagree with me, all right? So I believe that the Waitangi Tribunal was a big mistake. The Crown shouldn't have done that. Or they should have taken Pakeha through the tribunal with them and settled our grievances, because that is why we don't have a voice, because the Crown doesn't want us to have a voice. Okay? They don't want us bringing up historical claims. They purposely made legislation that we could never claim. Why not? Why did they make legislation that we can't have our grievances heard? We have the same rights, don't we? Surely we do. Anyway, I'm leaving it there for tonight. A little bit of a book review that we had. I'm going to leave you with my intro song again, my collaboration with Suno, and I really love it. I'd love to do a production. I used to be a singer and a dancer, and now that I'm older, I don't do that so well anymore, but I'd like to be a director of a colonial show. And I think that we really need to express, have a place to express through art as well. Maori are getting highly funded to do arts and film and songs and what have you, and we're going to get a slice of that. We're starting a trust. We're in formation, the Pewty Trust, which is the Pakeha Equity and Unity Trust Incorporated. Okay, so we've been to the lawyer and we've got the paperwork and the constitution all drafted up, and it's going to be registered, and we'll get a certificate approval, and then we're going to make speeches to the council about capturing some of our settler halls and cultural spaces back. Okay, so like I said before, Pakeha Movement at gmail.com is our email. Flick me an email and I'll put you on our newsletter list, and you can keep up to date with everything that we're doing in the Pakeha Movement. Time for Pakeha New Zealand European Kiwis to unite. We're going to have conferences. We're going to start thinking about what we want for our future as a people, as a community. We have to adapt to the multiculturalism. Okay, instead of trying to tear it down, we raise a standard, we raise a banner, and hey, we might get our own flag. I think we should have a nickname for our country and call it Colonia. I've got these fleur-de-lis logos here that I made up, and I like them. I think they're nice. I'm going to get a dress made of this design here, and we're going to do a show. All right, so if anyone's in Auckland, I want a team of people in Auckland, because this is where I am. I want a bunch of people to become the Queen's team here in Auckland. We're going to go and have some lunches. We're going to do some brainstorming. We're going to be a think tank. We're going to put a show together. So if you're interested in that, if you're a musician or a singer or a dancer, or you've been involved in productions, or you're a stagehand, or you're a technical person, or lighting, we want all of those sort of people to come, because we're going to capture a cultural space. We're going to hopefully get a strategic council broker to find us an occupancy lease in one of our heritage buildings that's being used to make money, just thrown into the general pool. We, as white people in New Zealand, need to have cultural spaces where we can gather together and do our traditional customary things, just like everybody else. There's nothing racist about that, and we're not going to be called white supremacists when we're the only ones that haven't been doing the race cult thing. We think we just got to start it up again now. Okay, so we need to unite up and down the country, join the resistance. We have a plan and a purpose. We have a proposal for New Zealand Europeans to go on a colonial mission march to Parliament, and we demand a settler tribunal. Okay, we just take the beaten track of Māori. That way they can't call us racist because we've got the same claims. The Crown stole our land too, and we just want to be heard. So I'll leave you with that now, and I'll put my pseudo collaboration song on again. This is going to be our signature song, okay? Euphoria, and that's what our production is going to be called. Euphoria. So we're coming at you. Good night, and we'll see you next time. Bye.